What's up, it's Cinema Shogun here, and the parents of Ethan Crumbly will stand trial for manslaughter. After hearing extensive testimony as well as evidence and reviewing and viewing extensive exhibits, the court finds that the deaths of the 4 victims could have been avoided if James and Jennifer Crumbly exercised ordinary care and diligence in the care of their son. So, we were wondering if the Crumbleys would stand trial. Now it is confirmed that the Crumbleys will indeed stand trial. I've mentioned it before, but let me mention it again. This is the first time in history that the parents of a school shooter will be held accountable for what their kid did. This will change everything going forward. I think that it can be dangerous. It can be somewhat dangerous because I don't think that parents are necessarily like 100% responsible for everything that their kid does. I know that when I was younger, I made some stupid decisions that had nothing to do with my parenting and how I was raised. I just made some dumb decisions. I think kids often make dumb decisions and it doesn't necessarily reflect on how they were raised. I know plenty of people who had awesome parents and an awesome upbringing who made mistakes in their life. Now, albeit not mistakes as bad as what Ethan Crumbly made, and I wouldn't call what Ethan Crumbly did a mistake because he really thought it out and planned it out, but I'm just saying I don't think that parents should always be held accountable for what their kid does. But in a situation like this, I do think that sometimes maybe they should be, especially with this Ethan Crumbly case. When you look at the details and you see the facts and you realize just how neglectful they were of Ethan and how they knew that he was going through mental issues, but still purchased him a gun, took him to the firing range. Here are some pictures captured by security footage of Ethan Crumbly at the firing range with his mother, testing out his new gun. And now this came weeks after he had already been complaining to his mother that he was hearing demons talk to him, and that he was seeing ghosts and hearing voices, and there was these weird thoughts in his head. He even reached out to one of his friends and told them that he had tried to tell his parents about what he was going through, but they didn't care. And the teen even asked, Ethan Crumbly even asked his dad to take him to a therapist. But James Crumbly told him to suck it up and then gave him some pills. Ethan Crumbly then went and tried to approach his mother about his mental issues. She laughed it off. She laughed at him like it was a joke, told him to deal with it, and then purchased him a gun a few weeks later. That's how bad these parents are, and that those like specific details, that's why I think they should be held accountable. I do believe that a kid could possibly do what Ethan did, and that their parents shouldn't always be held accountable just because their kid did something like Ethan did. But in this case, when you know the details, you know that Ethan tried to get help. You know that the parents were aware of his issues, and at no point did they try to help him at all, which was bad enough. But then they empowered him to act on this mental health by purchasing him a gun. It blows my mind every time I go back to this news story because I just can't fathom how anyone would purchase their kid a gun knowing that he was going through these type of issues. Now, it was said in court that a lot of what Ethan was going through, he didn't tell his parents, but they did know the gist of it. They knew that he was having some issues. They didn't know all of the details, but one of his friends did. He was really confiding into one of his friends, telling him that he was going to shoot up the school and all types of other stuff. And in fact, he actually had a notebook. I think it was 21 pages long of writings and drawings, and they found it that day of the shooting. Ethan Crumbly's backpack with his journal inside was found in a bathroom at Oxford High School on the day of the shooting, said Lieutenant Timothy Willis. Willis said that every page in that journal that was written on contained references to shooting. Ethan Crumbly was planning on the shooting that Ethan Crumbly was planning at Oxford High School. There was 21 pages written on or drawn on in the journal, Willis said. According to testimony, the last entry by Ethan in the journal was dated November 29th, the day before the shooting, and said, "The shooting is tomorrow. I have access to the gun and the ammo. The first victim has to be a pretty girl with a future, so she can suffer like me. I have fully mentally lost it. After years of fighting with my dark side, my parents won't listen to me about or help me with a therapist. I'm sorry for this, Mom and Dad. I'm not trying to hurt you by doing this. I have to do this." The journal also included drawings of bullets, a severed head, and what appeared to be a demon. So Ethan carried this journal around everywhere he went. The journal was in his backpack. I think that the type of parent that I will be, I don't want to be the type of parent that intrudes on my kid too much, but I'm going to be a nosy parent. I'm going to snoop around my kid's room a little bit. If Ethan's parents were doing that, maybe they would have noticed the decapitated birds under his bed. Maybe they would have noticed this journal that he would leave laying around talking about killing kids at his school. Maybe they would have seen his internet history and realized that he was looking up all of these just grotesque type of videos. Maybe they would have, I don't know, listened to the school counselor that literally called them to the school that same day of the shooting, and they did nothing. That's a detail that is also very important to remember. And it is being said now that when James and Jennifer Crumbly were called to the Oxford High School on November 30th, that they didn't even greet their son. They came up to the school, they didn't even acknowledge their son. Mind you, they were called up there because their son was going through some things. You know, his teachers were to find disturbing drawings and images, and he was obviously going through some mental issues, but they didn't even greet their son. They never hugged their son. They never took him home. Of course, we know that they didn't take him home. The school wanted them to take him home, and they refused. The counselor for the school said, "I have never had parents arrive to the school and not take their student home." And she says that she was just taken aback by it, and that they were so cool and cold towards Ethan, which is something that we've heard a lot, you know, from this case, that the parents weren't that loving with Ethan, which I guess is how Ethan became this monster that he became to be. You know, you can dig up old videos of Ethan. Ethan actually had a YouTube channel, and he would talk about random things that kids talked about, and he seemed like a perfectly innocent kid. But I think Ethan really craved attention and really wanted attention. Probably one of the reasons why he had a YouTube channel at such a young age. And he never got that attention. He didn't get that attention from the kids at school. He didn't get that attention from his parents. And he became obsessed with being remembered forever. Often in his journal and these conversations with his friend, he would talk about how he wanted to go down in history and be remembered forever. And even once he got to the jail, he became, from what they say, he's obsessed with all this fan mail that he's getting. And yes, Ethan Crumbly is getting tons of fan mail. That is what has been reported. And not just that, he has tons of money on his books. They said that he has like a significant amount of more money on his books than anyone in that jail. He's already being treated somewhat like a superstar. Women are writing him every day. Grown-ass women are writing Ethan Crumbly every day because they have crushes on Ethan Crumbly. And they're turned on by the fact that he's a school shooter. We live in a sick, twisted world. We really do. I don't know what it is with some women and their obsession with like serial killers, but it's there. They love it. I don't know why. Like, I understand the interest in talking about true crime and talking about serial killers. Obviously, I have somewhat of the same interest myself. But for some reason, I don't know, there's like a certain portion of women that really get sexually turned on by serial killers. And they're turned on by Ethan Crumbly, a 15-year-old who shot up his high school. and they're writing him every day, sending him Lord knows what, putting money on his books, because that's the world we live in. That's the world we live in. But I am happy to see that these parents will have to stand trial. I'm really interested in this trial. I'm going to cover this trial, of course, because I want to see how this plays out. Like I've already stated, this is the first time in history we're seeing something like this. So I want to be there for it. And I just want to see how, like I said, I want to see how this works out. Will they really be able to be held accountable in the court of law? Or will there be loopholes around it? I mean, it's just really going to be interesting. But I want to know your thoughts about all of this down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. And as always, find some time out of your day to go watch a movie.